Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, whenever you may be listening, and welcome to Latitude, the 43 North podcast. I'm your host, Nate Benson, Director of Content here at 43 North, and we have a fantastic episode for you this week. We are in the presence of royalty. Well, chicken wing royalty. This week on the podcast, we have the Wing King, Drew Cerza, joining us on the podcast. We're right around the corner from yet another International Buffalo Chicken Wing Festival here in the city of Buffalo. So Drew came by to talk about his experience in entrepreneurship, starting the very first International Chicken Wing Festival, what inspired it, how it's grown, where it's going, and everything in between. So sit back, relax, get yourself some chicken wings and blue cheese, and enjoy this week's episode of Latitude. Your Highness, it's nice to be in the presence of royalty.
Nate, always a pleasure to be with you.
For those who don't know you, and this is a worldwide podcast, so outside of Little Buffalo, give us the quick pitch of Drew Cerza.
Yeah, so I'm 58 years old, raised in Buffalo, New York. I've got a beautiful wife and two daughters, 25, getting married in the fall, and another girl, Sydney, that's a senior at St. Bonaventure, plays soccer, and I'm a real family guy, but on the side, I'm a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, you are the bona fide Wing King of Western New York, right?
Yeah. I started the National Chicken Wing Festival back in 2002, and it was an idea that actually came from a movie called Osmosis Jones, where Bill Murray was a big junk food eater, and his goal was to go to the Buffalo Wing Festival. Well, ironically enough, we didn't have one, and the newspaper columnist Don Esmond wrote an article, why don't we do it? Wings are called Buffalo wings all over the country. We invented them back in 1964, and I decided just to make a run at it, and didn't really know what I was doing, but figured it out. And now we're 18 years later. It's one of the top food festivals in the country, with people that come from all over the world country to partake, and restaurants from all over the world. And it's a pretty good, it's like the Super Bowl of chicken wings. And it's a great economic impact it has on Buffalo as well.
And we'll get into the formation of the festival in a little bit. So, pre kind of Chicken Wing Fest, how did you get involved in entrepreneurship as a teenager, as a young man?
Yeah, my dad, I was real close to my dad. My dad was a marketing guy that worked at supermarkets. So he was in charge of the grocery section of a small chain of stores here in Buffalo called Twin Fair. And I used to go to work with him on Saturdays, and he'd take me on some dinners and things with some pretty influential people in the food industry. And I saw how hard he worked, and but he didn't work for himself. He worked for the man. Mm-hmm. So I said, I don't know if that's really where I want to go. I went to school at Brighton Stratton College here in Buffalo, within Duville, always in marketing. I always was thinking entrepreneurial. I didn't know what it was to be an entrepreneur. You don't really know what it means. Yeah. It just, you flow into it.
Yeah, my generation's branded it, but
it's
been a thing forever, right?
Exactly. You don't say I want to be an entrepreneur. Now they do.
Yeah.
But I always did a lot of charity work, and the charities would always ask me when I was on the board, to do the marketing for them or come up with an idea, a promotion. And at the time, I do the supermarket business, so I would always do this, and then I'm like, geez, it'd be nice if I could tie into what I was doing, which basically I was a marketing firm for food companies like the General Mills of the world that were sold in supermarkets. So I created this cause marketing campaign, as a term became well known a few years later, where I would tie in the supermarkets, the food manufacturers, and the charity, where you would buy product off the shelves and a donation would go back to charity. And on top of that, I would run some campaigns, billboards, TV, radio. I'd be in the circulars of the supermarkets and would really promote, a great cause like the Food Bank of Western New York, Race for the Cure, whatever it may be, and everybody would be taking their part in investing in the community. And then I would build in a management fee for myself. And I did that in Buffalo for a few years, and then some other supermarkets across the country caught on, and before you know it, we became the agency of record for a big pasta company called Prince Pasta, which then rolled into a company called New World Pasta, which basically owned all the different regional brands across the country. So my company for 7 years was across the country. We had 15 people, and we would travel to create all these promotions. Well, it was a great idea, but it wasn't rocket science. So people caught on, and eventually they said, why don't we just start doing this in-house?
Sure.
But at the same time, the whole idea of the Wing Fest came around, and I kind of slowly shut down the company because I saw it coming to a demise, and rolled into the Wing Fest. But at the same time, I always invested in real estate. I love studying real estate. And Ellicottville, New York, little ski town, hours south of Buffalo, New York, was kind of my niche. I would buy fixer-uppers, flip them, rent them, whatever, and I still do that today.
You know, that concept for, you know, kind of the food industry, you know, marketing, you know, for charities, like that's now seen across the industry.
Yeah.
Like you can't find a brand that on the bottom of the box doesn't have some sort of cause behind it, right?
Yeah, we were doing it before all that became.
And
it was
tough
pretty neat.
You know, like you said, it's an idea, but it's not patentable, or it's not technology.
No.
It's just a good marketing idea. And that's sometimes those issues with marketing, like, you know, they're going to get stolen, right? Like, any good idea is eventually going to get stolen.
It all runs its course. And I think one of the strengths I've always had was I knew when different concepts would run its course.
Yeah.
I would never push it too far. I would just roll into something else. And I think that's a mistake a lot of entrepreneurs make, is they push too hard. They roll their whole lives behind it. Mm-hmm. And you got to be careful. Although I did roll the dice on the Wingfest, I have to be honest.
Yeah.
I mortgaged the house literally and everything on the Wingfest. And thank God it didn't rain that first year. Learned how to sign my wife's signature and everything, the home equity loan. But that's another story she found out about 6 years ago. But it worked. You know, I think when you start out, I mean, you got to roll the dice. And if you want to go I was young enough to go all in and recover. But, you know, it's just, I think if you have a gut feel, and everything is really like smart risk, calculated risk. Everything I've done is calculated risk. I didn't do any flyers. Everything was calculated. I researched and studied behind it, and I think that's the key.
So how did you get started? You know, I know you kind of explained the background of like, oh, there's no chicken wing festival in the hometown of chicken wings. What the hell? So you see that article, you have, okay, you know, so why you? Why did you kind of take up the cause?
Well, you know, I always participated with the different brands I represented in different events. And with the charities I volunteered for, there were always events, and a lot were outdoors and being part of festivals and things like that. So I had a feel for it, and I enjoyed it. I loved going to food festivals. So, and I also knew the big key was sponsorship. And I knew how to get the sponsorship money from food companies. So I thought that would be a great way to fund it. And I also loved Buffalo and believed in Buffalo. So what a better thing than to market chicken wings and buffalo wings?
Right.
You know, it was perfect. But I think that was it. I did. You know, you really don't know what you're doing. I mean, I ordered 100 turkey fryers and they wouldn't deliver them to me. That's how I was going to cook the chicken wings. I mean, those things burned down houses.
Yeah.
So I had to have them shipped to different people, and we just went for it. I think that was the thing too. The first festival, the wings weren't that good. The event was very disorganized because we had no idea how many people would come, and then 40,000 came. There's no way to organize, be ready for 40,000 people your first year. But
in any first year, you don't know what you don't know, right?
You don't.
Which is, you know, a saying that I often say to people, and they kind of look at me. It's like, you honestly have no idea what you don't know until you go through something, and then it's like, oh, good to know.
That's so true, Nate. And the only way to find out is by doing it.
Right.
You know, whether you're. I don't think I failed. I just don't think it was a really good event. But I learned so much. I was able to evolve, and I think the city gave me a buy on it. It's not that it was a terrible event. We sold beer. People drank beer.
We had
at
the end of the day, a festival in Buffalo,
Yeah.
as long as you got beer.
Yeah, I got beer. You know, so but you gotta. I think anybody, you gotta give it a shot. If you believe in something and you want to try something, you got to give it a shot. And you never find out unless you try. And I tried, and you know the way I sold it like it was the biggest thing ever. I really did. And all of a sudden, I had the Pepsi Colas, the Frank's Red Hots, the Food Network, the Travel Channel. I had everybody buying in. So as I got partners, I was able to use those partners' names like, well, they're in, and all of a sudden, everybody thinking it's big. Now we just got to create something big. And we were over the last, I would say, over like 3 or 4 years, we were able to do that. And the big thing was we got a hit on the Today Show. I went on the Today Show the first year. Right before the festival, so all of a sudden people became believers. You hit the Today Show, you got something.
Right. So looking at 2019 versus 2002, what, you know, from just kind of the organizational aspect of the festival, what's different? What did you learn after that first year that it's like, oh, you know, never going to make that, you know, mistake again? Because obviously there was mistakes, right?
Yeah, mistakes and learning better ways to do things. I think one thing was investing in fryers, getting the right kind of fryers, and it took a while to make enough money to be able to invest in that. But once you had the right fryers, and you got to remember all the people I hired and volunteers, you know, year 2, 3, 4, 5, they got better. They got smarter. So it wasn't just me.
Yeah.
I created these partnerships around the community with different charitable groups that would volunteer, and I would give them donations for volunteering. So it wasn't just me. I was kind of the ringleader, you know? And it just, I think the thing was I just created really good partners in the city of Buffalo. And if you build it, they will come. It was almost like the stone soup fable.
Yeah.
You know, everybody started contributing. All of a sudden, you got a big barrel of soup. So it's something I'm proud of. We're proud of. Technology has played a big role in this. Now, I do everything in Google Docs. It's amazing. I have no paper.
Yeah.
Years ago, I had binders, paper all over. I have a timeline that's all sorted. I know what I have to do when I have to do it. So, you know, the I'm not going to call it disorganization. The organized chaos is out of it. Now it's just organized.
What was your lead time before, from an announcement to execution of the festival that first year?
Well, it's funny you say that. So the movie of Osmosis Jones, which the whole idea came from, came out in August of 2001. My first planning meeting, ironically enough, or whatever you call it, was September 11th at 9 a.m.
Oh, okay.
2001. So think about the timing.
Yeah.
So I remember, because I still had the company at the time, and we're all convening about 8:45 for our meeting, and our artist comes in and says, I don't know, the Twin Towers just got hit. Well, that was the start of, remember that
Long
day?
day, yeah.
And you didn't know if there'd be events, if there'd be armed guards on the streets, nothing. So I didn't even plan on doing it. And then January decided to pick it up and said, let's go. So in 8 months, we did everything. So it really was tough planning that quick.
And versus now, it's basically a full, after this festival ends in 2019, you get right back on and start planning again, right?
Well, the funny thing is I plan at the Wingfest. So I have my, it's funny, again, technology.
Yeah.
I've got my phone with me. I have a notes section, and I go around, and now that I have a lot more help, I can focus more on, bigger picture stuff and looking at what's working, what's not, instead of we're out of water for the volunteers, or that banner needs to be rehung. I got out of that game about 2 or 3 years ago, fortunately. But I'm looking at how to do things better at the festival itself. That's the best time. The best time to do it. But I take September off. My daughter plays college soccer September, October, so I pick it up again. I do all my thank yous, but pick it up again in November. But I'm always thinking it. Always thinking it's in my blood. It's part of my soul, actually.
What surprised you the most from kind of initial inception, now almost 20 years later, versus today? Like, what have been some of those surprises along the way?
The growth, the popularity of chicken wings. So you got to remember, the internet, whenever it started in the 80s or whatever, but the whole research and Googling and all that in the early 2000s was huge. It's the same time the Travel Channel and the Food Network was converting from the Emeril Lagasse, one guy in the kitchen type show, to let's go on the road and look at regional foods and festivals. Well, I caught it the first year. So all these different shows on the Travel Channel and Food Network, which are owned by production companies, they were calling, they all wanted to come out. So we'd have all these different shows come out, and the beauty of it is, they rerun the shows 5, 6, 7 times a year, and probably 8 different shows came out, and they still run them today. So it's like that. And then all the stories we got in the news and online, it lasts forever. So we caught it at the right time and rode the flow. And then 2008 was a big thing for me because Bobby Flay had his show called Throwdown, and he would pick who he considers the expert in a regional cuisine and surprise him and show up and challenge him. And he did that with me in Buffalo, and I was fortunate enough to beat him. So I got to go on the Today Show, The View, Regis and Kelly, all these different national shows. And that's where the whole Wing King term became coined. And I've been riding that ever since.
I suppose if you're going to beat somebody in a cook-off, it might as well be Bobby Flay, right?
It's one thing to compete against him is good, but to win, it kind of is that little, wow.
What was the secret to the success in that, you think?
He didn't use blue cheese for a dip. And although I'm not a dipper, but that's a good side dish. But we both, came up with a barbecue heat-type flavor. So they were kind of similar wings. They really were. But
ruined it with ranch, huh?
I think he did. Thank goodness.
It's tough, of course. Some of the lessons in entrepreneurship obviously come from the failures, and obviously there's the festival's a huge success, but what have been some of the, what was the worst day? What was the kind of what's been the one hard lesson that unfortunately without living it you had to experience?
Never. How do I put it? Never count on people to do what they say they're going to do. Once you get to know them and have a history with them, you can rely on them. But it's always that little prod, that little reminder in a nice way. Like not the don't forget, like looking forward to seeing you.
Yeah.
Or thanks for doing this. So, you got to remember I have probably 40 sponsors, 30 restaurants, all the logistical people, the staff, the media, all the different connectivity points is just really tough to manage. But now I do it, through this system I have, through technology. But, I think that would be it. It's just never assume. It's almost like getting married, and all these couples are getting married. You got to make sure they walk down the aisle at the same time, or eventually meet at the end game where the priest is to say, right. I do. So it's just prodding along. It's like herding cattle. That's what it's like.
So how does the process of, early on, finding so many vendors versus, now you've probably got people coming to you, right? So the kind of the growth of that aspect of it, right, has probably been very transformative.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. It's the old days. I literally, the first year, I was flying restaurants in, putting them up on my credit card, begging local ones to come in. Now it's a whole different process. It's the place to be. And what I've learned is I don't want just somebody who serves chicken wings. I want somebody who's got a passionate owner or chef that's their play. It's not one of the items on the menu. Yeah. It's their main item. And there's a history and a passion and a creativity. And I'll talk to the owner or chef on the phone, for 30, 45, for an hour, just to see if it comes through. I want them to want to be here. I will reach out sometimes, but I like when they connect with me. But I think the passion has to be there. So now you've got passionate restaurants at the festival. You can't fake it. Yeah. And that comes across to the attendees. They like being there because it's like going to your favorite restaurant and liking the person behind the bar or the maitre d' that says hi, or the owner that says, how's your meal? Yeah. And I think we've got a chemistry and a culture at the Wing Fest where everybody wants to be there, everybody appreciates being there, and all the attendees appreciate it. So I think the big thing is we've created this culture of people who want to be there to appreciate the Wing Fest.
How does the festival, continue to transform? So, like, what is in a perfect scenario, what does the festival look like in 5 or 10 years?
That's a great question, and it evolves, and you evolve. I'm 58 years old. When I started, I was 40. So one thing I've always been careful of is never creating something that only I want to go to. You have to step out of your shoes and look at everybody else. And so this is going to be our 18th year. I'd say about 5 years ago, I remember walking into the festival, and here we go again. I started feeling like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day. The alarms go off at 6. I knew exactly. Yeah. And to me, it was okay. So I'm like, if I'm feeling this, how the attendees feel. So the following year, I decided to all the things I was afraid to do, I'm going to do. There was a guy that was begging me to do a chicken wing 5K. Let's do it. We created this VIP section. Let's do it. This big seating tent on the field. Let's do it. And I just started doing things that people wanted, and really started listening. I got caught not listening. And
it's easy to get into a habit. Like, it worked in 2002, 2008, 2010.
It works.
Well, why change it, right?
And it was deteriorating, and I didn't realize it. So, and then the biggest thing is, how do you reach the young folks?
Sure.
The 20 to the 35-year-olds. That's, and I'm not going to use the word. That's the key. And you can say social media. That's a no-brainer, but it's got to be the right message. It's got to be something fun, exciting. And every day I think about it, we're evolving. And 5 years from now, I really don't know what it's going to be like. I think you need to pay attention and make sure it evolves the right way. You got to give people what they want. We'll always have chicken wings. Yeah. I'm doing some things this year I'm going to announce that people are going to think I'm crazy or I've fallen off my rocker. But I'm going to do it because people have asked for it.
Well, I wouldn't be a good former journalist if I didn't try to pry it out of you. Any teaser you can give us?
When does this go air live?
Tomorrow.
I can't do it. I can't do it, Nate.
That's okay.
I can't do it.
That's okay. I almost had the exclusive.
But to your point, it's exactly what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Give people what they want.
Good.
And that's the only way to survive.
You've had hundreds, if not maybe thousands, of restaurants now represented at the festival. What's been, we don't have to name names, but what's been the best wing you've had from some of these specialty places, and the miss? What was something so ambitious that they
peanut butter and jelly
was
awful.
The miss? Yeah,
you can't do it. Can't do it.
And every year I've been to the festival, I always try it from different places, and it's not supposed to be.
No, and some even tried fluffernutter with jelly. It just didn't work.
You can't do it.
Now, the one there's a little joint called Millie's in Ohio, okay, just outside Toledo. I think it's Onaville. I can't remember. I think Onaville. I'm not sure, though. But called Millie's. And this guy, Kyle, he's got this wing that's a blackberry brandy wing with a little bit of heat. And he charges it on the grill after. It's like unbelievable.
Yeah. So the sugar caramelizes a
yeah,
little.
and it's not too much, you know. And there was London, England, actually. There's a big chicken wing craze going on right now. And we had a place called Sticky Wings last year. It had a strawberry flavored wing that was unbelievable. And, it's so cool seeing all these different, like, fruity, all these different style flavors. Now, you'll have some people say, no way, that's BS. I want a traditional wing.
Right.
Okay.
Just like in any food,
like
kind
any
of
food,
niche, like traditionalists versus the ambitious.
Exactly.
New age.
It's like trying different types of sushi.
Yeah.
We actually have a sushi restaurant coming this year.
Oh.
I actually was a judge at a wing fest down in St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Of all places.
Of all time.
Darn. Okay, sure.
They forced me and my wife to go and put us up. But it was on the beach. They had tents on the beach. And the sushi place, Asian restaurants have great sauces.
Yeah.
Well, this guy's into chicken wings now, so he converted the sauces and put them on chicken wings. So he won, had a great wing, and I invited him to the Wing Fest this year.
Nice.
So he's going to come in. This whole international flair now is really getting widespread.
So what can I know you're a little early to be doing a lot of the big announcements and stuff, but what can wing enthusiasts expect this year? What anything new, changes, anything big?
Some new exciting flavors, like 7 or 8 new restaurants, which brings some excitement. We'll have the competitive eating again this year with Joey Chestnut coming in to defend his crown. All the crazy stuff like bobbing for wings in the kiddie pool full of blue cheese. We're going to have our Heavenly Chillbillies, our blues band, our house band there.
For the bobbing for wings, I've always wanted to know, do you tell the intern, way ahead of time that they'll be doing cleanup on that, or is that a day of kind of?
The guys know now. It's there's no secret.
There's no secret.
The first couple,
need you to clean that up for me, partner. Thanks.
Well, I remember we ran the first year
Yeah.
and just hoped nobody saw it. We just tried to get out. It was like Bill Murray in Caddyshack when he's golfing with the priest.
Oh,
The
yeah,
priest gets hit by lightning.
Yep.
He just drops his bag and runs.
Yep. See you
that
later.
was us. Then I got the call from the Buffalo Bisons, the host of the festival, like, hey, you left your blue cheese there.
Oh, sorry. Just toss it.
We still are challenged with how we get rid of that every year.
Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah.
Because what do you do with it? It's just like
you can't get it off the stage.
Yeah.
We try and it's a nightmare. It's my biggest challenge of the Wingfest now.
Yeah, you have to incorporate one of the high-tech companies here at 43 North to figure out a high-tech solution.
Go.
We'll do a little open challenge for them.
See, it's like splitting the atom.
Exactly. So, the last question. About a year and a half ago now, Alton Brown was on a show online and mentioned how Buffalo's wings aren't as good as they seem to be. Obviously I'm a wing connoisseur. I've had wings every state. And anywhere I go, I always try the wings at the joints I go to. But, do you feel, is that a fair statement? Is that obviously nonsense? When you heard that, what did you think?
It was very unfair.
Yeah. Especially because if you go back in his Twitter history, he got takeout wings delivered in styrofoam. So it's like
that's exactly the problem. So I've always been an Alton Brown fan, but I'm not
me too.
anymore because I still like his work, but as a person, very disappointed. I call him a jerk, and I'm very fair. I send him I respond on Twitter in a very nice way, inviting him to come on our Buffalo Wing Trail. I take him around, show him wings. he was here for a show and got takeout wings from a great place called the Barbell in East Aurora.
But to be fair,
you can't do takeout
35 minutes
anywhere.
away.
Yeah, you can't do that. And to make that, he's smarter than that. He's I don't know. I still can't believe he did. I don't know if he's losing it or was drunk. He may have been drunk. I don't know. It was a podcast like this, I believe.
Yeah.
You know, it's I don't know. It was just disappointing. But I mean, hey, does Buffalo have the best wings? It's got some of the best wings, without a doubt. But you can get great wings in other parts of the country too, without a doubt.
And that's really what's representative of this festival.
That's exactly it. You know, and it also depends on, like, you go to a place, they have different varieties. You know, you got to nail the right one, or don't get one you don't like. If you don't like garlic parmesan, don't try it.
Yeah.
Get one you like. So, but that was really disappointing, especially he never reached out and said, hey, maybe I shouldn't have said that. No, there was nothing. No comment, or not even like, it's true.
He admitted right after, he's like, well, I can never go back to Buffalo. It's like, well, yeah, he hasn't been back.
He's more than welcome.
Yes.
And I would take him around.
All right. So if you're listening, Alton, you're welcome to come back at the
I
festival.
will forgive and forget.
So the details, run through when and where and how we can get there.
Yeah, Labor Day weekend. It's it's a Saturday and Sunday, August 31st and September 1st. Gates open at noon both days. It's now called Salem Field, formerly Coca-Cola Field, where the Buffalo Bisons play AAA baseball. Got lots of great hotels right around if you want to spend the night. But you can go to buffalowing.com, buffalowing.com. It's got all the information. The festival guide will be up there probably around the 22nd of August. So you can check it out. Check out the menu will be in there. You can pick your sauces and kind of plot your old strategy on which wings you're going to eat. But it's a lot of fun. If you're watching from outside Buffalo, Buffalo is without a doubt the friendliest city, most hospitable city, and you will have a guaranteed great time.
Well, Drew, I really appreciate the time today. I know you're certainly busy this time of year, so thanks for coming by, and we'll see you at the Wing Fest.
Great. Thanks, Nate. Great talking.
Cheers.
Okay.
I want to thank Drew for joining me on the podcast again this week. Make sure you head on over to buffalowing.com to get all the information you may want for the 2019 International Chicken Wing Festival. Thanks again for listening. Make sure you head on over to 43north.org/jobs and check out the over 50 job openings we have for the Buffalo tech and startup scene here in Buffalo. A lot of jobs, a lot of diverse jobs. So if you're a sales professional, if you're a creative, definitely check that out. For 43 North, I'm Nate Benson, and we'll see you at the next one.